Clark Kent, Daily Planet.
What's your position on the Bat Vigilante in Gotham?
Faster than a speeding bullet, the new Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice trailer appeared a few hours ago. We've been looking at it to find out the key bits that you need to know. I'm Richard Edwards, I'm the editor of SFX Magazine, and with me are my SFX Magazine colleagues Jordan Farley and Nick Setchfield. Hello, lads.
Hello.
Okay, now, the first thing we see in the trailer is not so much Batman v Superman as Clark Kent v Bruce Wayne, and it also sort of hints that there might even be a bit of levity in this film, that it might not be all doom and gloom. There is a hint of banter here, though, isn't it? I mean, that's not something that you would ever associate with Man of Steel.
No, I mean, the first two trailers for Dawn of Justice especially felt like so grand and so operatic and so just deadly serious. That
so
this
rainy.
Almost, yes, incredibly rainy. That this almost tonally, this feels like completely out of left field, but I kind of like it. I kind of like it, having a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And now we're actually seeing as well, they have these two characters in their sort of human forms, as it were, have very...
Kryptonian, I think you'll find.
Well, yes, okay, but out of the suits.
Okay.
That they have very different viewpoints on how to bring justice to the world and how their characters behave, and that sort of manifests straight away, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some interesting identity issues going on here as well. Like, I'm not totally sure. Clark obviously doesn't know who Bruce is at this stage, or at least is not revealing that fact. But it seems like Bruce knows who Clark is. At least his line about freaks dressed up like clowns appears to hint that he knows who Clark is, possibly.
It does feel loaded, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the idea is that it was a Wayne Enterprise building that got destroyed in the battle between Superman and Zod during Man of Steel, and that's why he's so miffed at Superman.
This is crucial, I think, this Batman, this sort of taunt to Batman, this sort of graffitied suit. Now, we don't think that's a bat suit, do we?
We think it's Robin's outfit.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we're assuming Robin may have shuffled off the mortal coil at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably at the hands of the Joker, because otherwise that's quite misleading.
Yeah, well, I mean, what he's actually written on Robin's suit is, ha ha, the joke's on you, Batman. And that's the kind of thing that Cesar Romero would have said in the 60s TV show. So maybe Snyder's having a little more fun at the edges of this film, bringing in a little more of, the classic kind of camp sensibility.
Also a degree of setting up Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
And now we're going to sort of get our first view of Lex Luthor talking.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of camp sensibility.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that he's got hair, which is... I suppose Gene Hackman did.
He's got hair for the moment.
Yeah, he is going to lose his hair.
But this is a very different portrayal of Lex Luthor from Jesse Eisenberg. I mean, how do we think it's working so far?
I think it's very brave to reinvent Lex as somebody that you want to escape at parties.
He's kind of the sort of geek, isn't it? I mean, it's the sort of tech geek almost, the sort of stereotypical, bit awkward, very different kind of businessman to what we would have
I'm
got.
kind of getting terrible flashbacks to Jim Carrey in Batman Forever. Not when he's playing the Riddler, when he's great, but when he's playing...
Edward Nygma.
We should add that he's not necessarily the founder of LexCorp here. He is Alexander Luthor, the son of the original Lex Luthor, who founds LexCorp. But that's not actually a new thing for the Superman mythos, is it? I mean, they did the same thing in Smallville, really.
He calls himself Lex, so I think for all intents and purposes, he is
think this
Lex
is meant
Luthor.
to be Lex.
Yeah.
Not the first ever Lex, but he might be the first supervillain Lex.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the scion of the Lex dynasty before, definitely. Yeah.
Now, we move on to sort of see this scene in a bunker, which was kind of hinted at in that teaser for the teaser a couple of days ago. You've got this almost godlike Superman, some sort of very almost Nazi imagery, and then some giant bugs. What's going on here?
Yeah, well, I guess, the hot rumour is that it's some kind of dream or nightmare or...
Some kind of fever dream.
Exactly, yeah. Some kind of post-apocalyptic vision where Superman in his kind of red sun sort of guise is being flanked by stormtroopers almost, and I don't know, is just in charge of this world.
It just feels like somebody's got Batman on the couch and has gone, what's your worst fear?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's arresting imagery. I think it's some of the most striking imagery in this trailer. I can imagine people being a little bit worried about it because it's obviously playing up the more fascistic sides of the iconography, but then if it's explained as a dream sequence and if it's explained as this is what Batman's fear of Superman is and this is why he's fighting Superman, then it kind of all makes sense, really.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be getting quite hot under the collar about the Bat Duster as well, the Bat Coat, which people are not very happy about at all.
What a thing to get worked up about.
Yeah.
what is wrong with the Batcoat?
Okay, now we're getting into the bit which everyone has been waiting for, which is basically Batman v Superman fighting, which is, I guess, the whole point of the movie. And
Yeah, the V.
yes, the whole reason it's there. And Batman in this sort of, I mean, it's almost like the Hulkbuster suit of the Batman Superman universe, isn't it? And we've kind of seen it hinted before. So, is this something that he's built especially to fight Superman? Is it lined with kryptonite? I mean, they haven't really gone for elegance with this one, have they? It's very functional.
It's brutal and it's efficient,
Yes, and
unlike the coat.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but I mean, you can tell in this shot, especially, that it looks CG. It doesn't look very practical to me, which is a shame.
And also, we see the new Batwing. I mean, it's not
Which
much
I
of a
love.
shot.
I love the Batwing. I love every incarnation of the Batwing. Flying bat stuff, I dig.
This looks kind of like a Nolan kind of Tumblr reinvention of the Batwing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not a fan of the Tumbler.
No.
It's my least favourite Batmobile, to be honest. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that the version of the Batmobile that we have in this film hews so closely to Nolan's version. I was expecting something a little bit sleeker, a little bit more operatic. Fins. I want fins. I want scalloped fins and clean lines and elegance.
I think there's possibly a degree, though, that the Nolan Batman films got so much right that they're kind of reluctant to change.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things in this trailer. Like, it seems it hews so closely to what Christopher Nolan was doing in his Dark Knight films, and I mean that kind of makes sense because obviously Zack Snyder's been heavily inspired by Frank Miller in The Dark Knight Returns, and Christopher Nolan was equally inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. So it makes sense that there'd kind of be this unity between those three things.
I mean, the fighting, this is going to be the whole selling point, isn't it? I mean, beyond any plot that's there, people are going to want to see this, and this is ultimately what the movie is going to live and die on, isn't it? Especially after the fight scene at the end of Man of Steel got a lot of stick for basically just being, buildings being crushed. So they have to be a bit cleverer here.
Yeah, I mean, as Lex says, the greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. It's what everyone's looking forward to. You don't see a whole lot of it here, but I mean, what you do see looks quite impressive.
I mean, they are hinting at that there's going to be lots of little things going on, like Batman jumping off buildings with his bat robe and Superman with his red eye. So I imagine we'll be seeing all of their skills.
I think the key thing when those two titans clash is that, Batman realistically is no match for Superman, not in the slightest. And this trailer kind of acknowledges that. I mean, Alfred tells Bruce that it's a suicide mission, and Clark at one point says, "I could have killed you at any moment." So Bruce has to outsmart Clark. That's the only way he's going to survive.
Now we're sort of getting on. Lex is sort of towards the end of the trailer. I think Lex kind of becomes more to the fore, and there's this hint that he's doing something with the body of General Zod. Of course, who controversially had his neck snapped in Man of Steel. So where do you think Lex sort of fits in here? He's obviously the antagonist that I would think is bringing them together by creating a bigger threat.
Certainly, the implication from this trailer is that he's been experimenting on Zod's corpse, and he's created Doomsday from those remains.
Now, that's a slightly different origin to the Doomsday in the comics, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a more elegant origin for the film, definitely, than it would be trying to weave in that comic book origin story.
Also, I mean, it's the kind of connective tissue that makes this feel more like a sequel to Man of Steel, because I think there's been a little bit of confusion as to whether this is Man of Steel 2, whether this is Batman 1, whether this is
Justice League prequel.
Yeah. What is it?
Or all of the above.
Yeah, all of the above mashed into one, and a Wonder Woman prequel as well. And talking of which,
This is the reveal of Wonder Woman. I mean, is this Wonder Woman's first appearance in the movie? You kind of wonder if maybe it is, unless she's appeared as Diana Prince beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, there's that shot in that earlier trailer where she seems to be at that party that Bruce and Clark are at. She gets out of a car, and Bruce gives her a little look. But this seems to be her big entrance, certainly, as Wonder Woman.
I just wish they gave her a line. Why can't she have a line in this trailer?
That is quite odd.
And they're sort of selling her by Batman and Superman's reaction, rather than giving her a really cool killer line at the end.
Maybe she doesn't need to say anything.
Maybe
She has just saved them both. Maybe that said it
This
all.
is true. This is true.
That's it for the Batman v Superman trailer. There'll be loads more Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice on GamesRadar Plus between now and its release in March. But in the meantime, bye.